we are really happy to start the discussion this morning together with you, and maybe we can learn also a few words from your side. Why are you here with us, and what can you actually contribute to the discussion? Arnau, maybe you can start. Say a few words.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be here. Also, after the discussions of yesterday, I think getting all the community together and thinking on how to improve and get this technology to production, it's really exciting. I come from a hospital, so I try to bring the view from a clinical perspective and at the end, the final use cases.
Very good. And we will talk intensively also about the use cases. Then Maren.
I come from the startup side. I don't have a medical background. We started the Incubator 5 years ago, and we see more and more young entrepreneurs coming into the space, also coming from other areas outside of the medical world. And I think it's quite interesting to connect the dots, but also to identify how young companies can also enter that field that has a lot of complexity.
Okay, very good point. Thank you, Maren. Daniel.
Yeah, hello everybody. Nice to be here. I'm leading a medical additive manufacturing lab. My background is engineering, so I'm not a medical doctor. But my purpose, I think, in my job at the moment is to bring this technology into hospitals, also into industry, and bring the clinicians a tool where they can individually treat their patients.
Thank you very much, Daniel. So I'm also an engineer, and sometimes I have difficulties also to find the right language, but I guess we will address this as well. Thank you, Daniel. And Fabian. Tell us something about it.
Hello, I'm working for HP for the multi-jet fusion departure, so anything with plastics, not the metal side, and closely with our customers, the applications, and supporting there to make the best out of multi-jet fusion technology. So I'm really seeing the application hands-on and also helping with all our professional services team to make applications also for the medical space reality.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fabian. And so now you know who is here with you on stage, and we also have a question to all of you, and maybe the technology team, can you be so kind to activate the first poll that we can use this in order to learn about the lack of education, or if there is no lack of education. Let's see. Okay.
One answer so far.
Great statistics.
Oh.
It's moving.
Good enough.
I think, of course, I mean, politicians, they would find ways to actually discuss this picture differently, but from my point of view, I think the message is quite clear. It seems that there is actually an agreement that there is some sort of lack of education with regards to 3D printing and the technology, and maybe also understanding the benefits. Now, when we see this, and Arnau, you are basically in the hospital, directly at the scene. When you talk to the experts, as you have seen, so Daniel, he is an engineer, I'm an engineer, and from your experience, is there some sort of lack of how to talk to the experts? Is there some?
Yeah. Definitely, I think that's one of the challenges that we have on the healthcare sector, on the application of additive manufacturing technology. You have 3 different backgrounds, very differentiated. One, the final user, which would be the surgeon, the radiologist, that is the one that brings the image and the quality of the input data. And then you have the engineers that are the ones that have to generate the planning. Normally, that's how it works. Then, of course, you have different transfer learning in between them. But one of the challenges here is how to talk the same language and understand each other. Also, I think the other one is from the surgeon's perspective, to be able to understand the potential benefits that it have. So what we also see, it's a generation a barrier there. So old surgeons that have done their things always the same way, it's more difficult to get them to use this technology. Always there's exceptions, but in general, as compared to younger surgeons that feel more comfortable with that.
And how are you dealing with this? I mean, is there some sort of best practice that you can already share?
I think how we've done it, we've started a 3D lab in 2015 after 2 years of trying the technology, and we created a centralized lab for all the hospital with radiologists, surgeons, and engineers. And to try to teach them how to do it, we've created a postgraduate course that is called Expert 3D, in which in 20 ICT credits, we try to bring together the 3 different backgrounds so that they can practice and learn together during this process. So I think so far, after 9 editions, it's been really great. And one of the things that people really loved more about the course, it's exactly that, to put different backgrounds together, to learn about the technology, learning by doing, and how to talk in between them. So maybe that's, and going to the topic, more education is needed, not only on the technical and theoretical part, but also on how to talk the same language.
Okay, we will address this. Yeah. So and Maren, I mean, you said you're coming from a different background, startups and so on. Is there something else that you could actually share with us how we should improve the collaboration or to work as a team?
I think there are a few aspects here. I think you also mentioned that you created a lab, a safe space, where people can experiment. I think that is quite important to also have this kind of freedom to test it out, because it's a very haptic kind of thing. You also have to, in theory, in school you can learn it, but I think you really have to touch it. You have to apply it. That is extremely important. Virtual reality, by the way, can play a very important role. From our part, we see more and more engineers, entrepreneurs coming from manufacturing, looking into the medical space, try to figure out how they can apply something that they have used in the manufacturing environment for a long time in the medical world. I think that is super important to also be open and open up to other industries and also learn from other industries. And yes, we do have companies in our incubator, 2 companies that are also here on site, that really use that and test it out and try to figure out how they can really apply it and connect the dots, so there's no separation between the medical, the engineering, and the kind of production part. They even look into how can we put it together in kind of one product, so you can apply it without all these steps to take in between. So I think you also see this kind of conversion of tech coming from different industries. What I wanted to also point out, because this is what we've seen when we came with new technologies into the field, we started in 2020 when COVID hit, so there was a strong interest in new technologies in general, but very limited time for the medical experts in the field, in the hospitals. And we still see that as a hospital, as a medical organization, you also have to give your medical experts the time to train. Having such a class also means I have to basically free my spare time if I work all these shifts, if I have a very limited number of employees in a hospital. How can they train themselves? Because they don't even have time for that. So I think from that kind of shift of mindset in the medical organizations, you also have to give these users the opportunity to experience a new technology. And if you're attached to a university hospital, it's slightly easier, I think, because you have this learning experience still. But if you work in hospitals, chains like Sana, in a rural area, there's not a close university close by. How do you, as a medical expert, get this kind of training?
Yeah, maybe Daniel and also then Fabian can help us with this. But first, Daniel, because you are there directly from a scientific point of view, working in the area. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really agree with both statements so far. I mean, on one hand, it's really about application. You have to apply the technology to really learn it. You cannot learn it otherwise, in my opinion. And then the second part is that you have to bring the technology right where it happens. At the moment, I see a big benefit of bringing this technology to the so-called point-of-care environment, where surgeons, clinicians, radiologists, and engineers really can work closely and get the experience hands-on about treating patients with that technology, but also have then a space where they can also try things out, and that's how we implemented that in our curricula of our study programs as well. So there's in most our bachelor master courses, there's also the availability of courses within 3D printing and additive manufacturing, but it's a whole complex process, as Arnau described before. You know, it's a complex process chain, and to have all these disciplines working together, you need kind of an ecosystem also around to support that with for example, imaging analysis, designers, and then also manufacturing and material specialists. So you have to find a language to each other to really work closely together. And at the moment, I see just bringing them really to the lab in a space where they can work together and learn the language.
So that means
from each
you
other.
are inviting them to the lab so that they can see and practice and have use cases there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all our students, for example,
Yeah.
they already have the opportunity to also do projects already in their bachelor courses.
Yeah.
They can really get hands-on experience on top-notch technology. That's how.
What is the degree that they have then? A mechanical engineering?
It's biomedical engineering. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And let's say from an HP point of view, different generations, different knowledge, different users, user types. I mean, you have to deal with all of them. So how do you manage this?
From a machine manufacturer side, hardware manufacturing side, we of course see that the printer itself is just a tool. It's just a small part of a whole process chain of developing a solution, a final product for a medical application. The printer itself is this tiny part in the chain which should start somewhere even before the design, pre-processing, post-processing, and anything that comes to the end, which is regulatory, not specific to 3D printing. It's the same process for all. But the real people that are applying it, medical professionals, hopefully students in the way to become a medical professional, it's very hard for them to keep up with the capabilities of all the widespread 3D printing technologies, capabilities, and the ever-changing market from companies coming and going. And as HP, we try to provide quite a solid point with experts that support for the whole process. For educational, we can help universities to learn about the technology and what's out there. We can also help hospitals and clinics to apply the technology, and we have the experts in-house to support on the way to finding a product. There's quite a few products out there that started as an idea in some startup mind or even some highly trained professional mind and has finally developed to an application with the help of a whole expert team. So an idea is a good spark. We use the printer as a tool, and we can support in developing the process chain in between to make it reality.
So that means, in other words, if we have in the audience right now interested participants, they could knock on the door and could say, please help us make a showcase so that we can learn from you.
We can definitely make a good stand on it's possible and what is possible. I cannot promise that we have the solution at HP, but we can definitely help you evaluate what's possible.
Okay, good. Very, very clear statement. Now, I think it's, again, a very good point in time to also have a look at the demand or the lack of skills. And this would lead us to the second poll, please, which is about the skills. So what skills do you think are needed in the future? Yes. Please activate the second poll. Exactly. And this is a word cloud. And now you can drop your demands, because we have representatives from all areas here. So you can send clear messages that will be, of course, then considered in the future.
A lot of tech skills.
Pardon me?
A lot of tech skills.
Yeah.
I think it's
Okay, but I think it's already clear. It's, I mean, when I have studied, of course, it was more the subtracting technologies that, like milling, drilling, turning, and so on, casting and post-processing. And here we have designed for additive manufacturing. And with this statement here from the voice of the community, I would like to start giving the word to Daniel. Yeah? So is this something which is threatening you, or is it, exactly this is what we are also dealing with our bachelor and master programs?
Yeah, I think it brings it quite to the point with design for AM, and I also take coding or software into that topic. I see there's at the moment quite a bottleneck still, where we come from our raw data and create a design out of it, and it still takes quite a bit of time when it's an individual product. So we're working on design automation and also implement those design for AM rules in those software packages. So I think this is something that's currently applied and growing, but not yet implemented in really standardized processes at the moment. Yeah. So yeah.
And Fabian, are you scared when you see this, or are you happy when you see this?
I'm totally not surprised. It's very much confirming what we think is missing, that it's strongly on the digital side. The lack that you think there's know-how needed in the future is very digital here. When we kind of take DFAM, coding, CAD out there, engineering as a very broad term, it's a strong sense of digital workflows that start at the very beginning of the chain. Sure, there's a few points of MDR and regulatory. This will be a challenge, and we need experts there that are also in the medical industry and AM, have both edges. But the DFAM is pretty much something that everyone can learn, and I think it just will grow quite quickly in the know-how of any new future engineers, medical professionals, and it's actually quite easy to learn the rules of 3D printing if you look out for it, or let's reach out and ask. The rules are not that complicated. They're about as complicated as CNCing, just different.
Okay, good. And Maren, when you see this, and again, I mean, you are connected to startups and also the startup scene. Is this something where you can say, okay, we as also some innovation company, we could support you also here in education?
I think we look a lot into point of care.
Yeah.
And I think you also mentioned that, Daniel. So all these skills are not necessarily at the point of care from neither side.
Mm-hmm.
The patient is not aware what's the process behind it. So would the patient ask for something? I think the regulatory experts at the moment are also not fully aware what material can be used and how the process is. I think there's a long learning curve to get medical devices that are designed from additive manufacturing into the field. I think is a challenge if you don't have all these bottlenecks sorted out. And I think that is a lot of training that is needed. The technical skills that I see on the slide are clearly not trained in any kind of medical environment at the moment. I'm pretty sure that if we look into who is able to do that, it's the biomedical engineers. But is there enough understanding from the medical expert point of view, the healthcare professionals on the point of care, to demand, that, to be comfortable to apply it? And of course, many young companies, many startups really look into user-centric, patient-centric approaches. So I think from the outside, it looks like a much more simpler approach. In a startup, you usually have a business expert, a medical expert, a tech expert. And to have as one person a stream of 3 or 5 people to have all these skills in one person combined, it's quite hard. So of course there are also challenges for any kind of young company to apply such a complex process. But what young companies are very good at is identifying, the small kind of turning points, really working on one problem at one time, and step by step, and you mentioned that, Daniel, also build an ecosystem of other organizations that are able to contribute. So we do have one company that do total contact casts, and they work with for diabetes, and they work with other companies to understand the wound care management. So where does that kind of cast that is 3D printed need to relieve the pressure points for a diabetic patient? But you need a diabetic expert to truly understand that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Maren. And Arnau, we have just seen the DFMA in the center there, and you have already earlier stated that you, since a couple of years, you have successful teams. And there is also the first question here, whether there is another success story that you can share. Maybe you can combine the DFMA and also a success story from your side.
Great, yeah. From the cloud point that I've seen before, the only thing that I was lacking was the clinical knowledge on that. So teaching clinicians and radiologists about the potential of this technology from a very applied point of view, so demonstrating them from the graduate studies how they can apply this technology. I think that would be great. And I love that regulatory is growing, because I think that's a real lack in the point of care. Going to the success stories, I can briefly explain two, apart from the Expert 3D course that we've created. One is that this technology have a huge potential, and I think I'm not saying anything new, for teaching skills in surgeons. Mm-hmm. Instead of using cadaveric bodies, now this technology allows to create any tailored shape that you want, so that they can practice anything that they need. So we've created with simulation, with the simulation department and some physicians, specific courses with 3D printed models that they can practice many times before going to the surgery. So normally what they would do is come different experts in surgery during the morning, see what the surgeon is doing, the expert, and then debrief the discussion on the afternoon. Nowadays, what they are doing in these courses is that in the afternoon, they are practicing on the same case that they've seen in the morning. So it's not just talking about the case, but doing.
Okay, very good. And overall, when you think about the education, should it be longer programs, or should it be bits and pieces, see, learn, so smaller intervals?
Very good question. I go more for the second one. What we see is that surgeons are very, as you said before, very occupied people, also radiologists. But if we want them to learn about this technology, they prefer not master courses, big courses, which could make sense, and we need it for more technical backgrounds. But for clinicians, more learning by doing, very practical courses, bringing together the different expertise and really reskilling them, so that then they can transfer this knowledge to their daily practice.
Okay, very, very good. So then we have a question which is addressed to Maren. And again, this is a question looking at the skills which are needed in the future. And maybe from your experience, you can help us with this.
I think one of the skills that is needed is constant learning, or the ability to learn new things in general. I don't want to give up on the older, because we also talked about age, the older healthcare professionals, because we would lose a lot of experience as well. So I think the upskilling and the reskilling, these two things are quite important to truly understand how to empower others in applying new technologies while you are in this process of doing business as usual. There's a constant learning in the medical field, I know, but still it requires to really think outside of the box, if you would say it this way. But the upskilling and reskilling is extremely important. Instead of hiring, new healthcare professionals that know it and come out from university, it's not the future from my point of view. So I think it's less the coding skills, it's less the design skills that are needed, not the technical skills, but the skill how how to deal with new technology, how to identify your own need, how to understand who in the ecosystem is able to deliver that. And I think it's more this kind of spider in the net that I see from a healthcare professional point of view, that kind of understanding. And again, it's not so easy if you're out of the field then to also understand, how do I learn? And when we have people that come in our incubator, they are like 50 and 60, sometimes even come out of a business environment. The average age of a founder in Germany and Berlin is like 36. So, you worked in your company for like maybe 15 years, and then suddenly you have to learn again how to learn new skills, how to upskill and reskill your own things. I think that kind of how to train and how to learn a completely new skill is something that also needs to be learned.
Okay, so that means there needs to be some sort of programs for the, let's say, person in a higher age. So, and then there are persons in the younger age. So basically your products that you are creating, Daniel, so who maybe have a different affinity to it. And do you think there is a challenge in using the technology, or is there something else that needs to be considered?
I mean, well, I don't think there's a huge age gap. I think it's more, as Maren said, it's like the quality of lifelong learning and being open to that. We also provide advanced courses outside of our normal bachelor master courses in additive manufacturing, and there I see a completely diverse background and age joining those courses. So I think it's more the quality to be open to.
Okay, so you are offering bachelor and master courses, so for the students, the younger, but you also have then additional trainings for the experienced. I see, complete program. This is good. Thank you. And Fabian, there is a question: what is the most exciting medical application for 3D printing that you know? Please tell us something about this.
There's so many new applications coming up every weeks, if you think so. On the medical field, I think, we do surgical guides. These are great, improve the outcomes of surgeries and recovery times, fantastic. Some radiation treatment innovations, but I think the newest, most recent application comes from Switzerland, actually, from a small startup called BotNeuro, who made an Alzheimer treatment helmet that is fully MGF printed with some electronics combined with it, customized to the patients, to the head shape, and with an electrode placement, which is the technology they use electrical impulses to reduce the onset, the Alzheimer effects. But the electrodes need to fit exactly where the brain activity is reduced, and they need to deliver a certain kind of pressure point to really transmit the electricity, as well as the helmet need to fit well, because otherwise the patient won't wear it. It's a perfect application that's actually not that complicated from a 3D printing point of view, but the technology is brand new to treat Alzheimer as an external device that the patients can wear at home in the comfort, wherever they feel like.
Okay, very good. I'm looking at the time. Unfortunately, we have some questions here, but we are running out of time, and that's why really for the final round, 5 seconds, what are the 2 most important things actually to share the knowledge and to be more successful when we meet in 1 year here? Arnau.
I think as we are coming in this technology in the healthcare sector from different backgrounds, it's getting together. And with that, I would do an statement that we've created a European special interest group. So if anyone wants to join and learn together, share best practices, just contact us, because I think that's the way of learning, sharing.
Sharing, networking. Very good. Maren.
I can only second that. I think you have to be in a lab, you have to feel it, you have to touch it, you have to understand what's the future. And as I said, I would also look beyond the medical environment. I would look into manufacturing in airspace, because you can learn a lot from that. And also in fashion, for instance, because there's a lot of very smart material happening. So broaden your horizon and look outside of the medical field as well, and share with these experts from there.
Perfect. Thank you. Daniel?
In my opinion, still application. I mean, we had the success this year to really print an implant in the hospital and also implant it in the hospital. So we brought it to the patient. And I think it needs more of such stories to really gain confidence also in the community that it is actually possible to do that.
Thank you, Daniel. And you, Fabian?
Let's network. We're at the right place for this, and try new things. Just try it and take the risk to maybe not working at the very first step, but take an iteration further and give the technology a chance.
Great, absolutely fantastic. So Arnau, Valls, Esteve from Barcelona, Maren, Lesche, Program Director from the Vision Health Pioneers, Daniel Seiler from the Northwestern Switzerland University, and Fabian Schuster, the Application Engineer from HP. Thank you all very, very much for your contribution. Excellent discussion that we had. A big applause
Thank you.
for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.